Autumn 1940. The world watched in horror as the once proud cities of Britain became ghostly silhouettes under a canvas of eternal night. Every sunset ushered in an aerial nightmare, the Blitz. From the steel heart of London to the industrial soul of Coventry, German bombers, Heinkel 111s and Dornier 17s, roared unseen through the darkness, unleashing torrents of fire and steel. The air raid sirens, once a chilling warning, now merely announced the inevitable. British defenses were crippled by an enemy they couldn't see. RAF fighter pilots, valiantly scrambling in early Bristol Blenheims or Hurricanes, were sent on near-suicidal missions, chasing phantoms. Their methods were primitive. Ground controllers, straining over flickering radar screens, would shout vague vectors into crackling radios, hoping a pilot might glimpse a bomber against a sliver of moon. It was like searching for a single, deadly mosquito in a cathedral at midnight, a futile, terrifying game of chance. The German bomber crews, meanwhile, knew that once darkness fell, they were virtually immune, laughing at the impotent searchlights that danced across the clouds. The strategic stakes were catastrophic. If the Luftwaffe could not be stopped at night, the relentless pounding would break Britain's industrial backbone, shatter civilian morale, and ultimately force a capitulation. Prime Minister Winston Churchill paced the war rooms, his brow furrowed with grim resolve. The very survival of the nation hinged on a technological miracle. Air Marshal Hugh Dowding, the stoic architect of the Battle of Britain, faced the agonizing truth. His daylight victors were blind in the dark. He knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this fight. He needed something revolutionary. In a moment of intense urgency, a directive, almost a desperate plea, was dispatched to the Ministry of Aircraft Production. His words, etched into the annals of wartime desperation, echoed like a clarion call. We need more than a fighter. We need a weapon that can see where others are blind. It must carry the gun power of a naval cruiser and the electronics of a cutting-edge laboratory. Failure, gentlemen, is not merely an option, it is the end. And with that thunderous command, in the chilling heart of the blackout, the nascent concept for the Bristol Beaufighter, a machine forged from necessity and destined to become a legend, began its urgent ascent from the drawing board to the darkened skies. This was the dawn of a new kind of air war, a war fought not by sight but by unseen eyes. 1938 to 1939. Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. For the Bristol Aeroplane Company, this wasn't merely a proverb, it was a desperate race against time. The conventional path of designing a completely new heavy fighter from scratch would take years Britain simply didn't have. Amidst the growing shadow of war, a stroke of engineering genius emerged from the Bristol design offices. Led by Leslie G. Frise, the team looked not to a blank page, but to their own existing, robust design, the Bristol Beaufort torpedo bomber. This wasn't just adaptation, it was an audacious act of cannibalization, a brilliant shortcut that shaved months, if not years, off the development cycle. They realized that the Beaufort's powerful wings, sturdy undercarriage, and most crucially, its massive engine nacelles, could form the backbone of a formidable new fighter. By marrying these proven components with a redesigned, more streamlined fuselage, they gave birth to a twin-engined Leviathan. The resulting aircraft, initially known as the Type 156, was a brute, but a beautiful one. Two mighty Bristol Hercules radial engines, throbbing powerhouses, each generating over 1,400 horsepower, were bolted to its wings, promising blistering speed and a phenomenal rate of climb. This was no nimble dart like the Spitfire. This was a flying battering ram, a cruiser in the sky, built for sustained patrols and devastating strikes. Its colossal frame, stretching over 40 feet, wasn't just about brute force, it was about strategic capacity. It offered two critical advantages. Unprecedented firepower. The Beaufighter was conceived as a flying arsenal. It housed a fearsome battery of four 20mm Hispano cannons mounted centrally in the lower fuselage. These weren't mere machine guns. These were ship-mounted weapons, capable of firing heavy, explosive shells that could tear apart a bomber in a single, surgical burst. Complementing this, 6.303 Browning machine guns were tucked into its wings, adding a blistering hail of lead. Pilots, once accustomed to meager armament, gazed at this box of fire with awe and a renewed sense of purpose. Room for revolution. The most crucial innovation, however, was not about what it carried, but who. The design explicitly accommodated a two-man crew. The pilot in the front and directly behind him, nestled in a cramped but vital compartment, a dedicated navigator/radar operator. This second seat wasn't for a passenger, it was for the future. It provided the essential space and environment for the most closely guarded secret of Britain's war effort, the nascent airborne interception (AI) radar set. The prototype took to the skies in July 1939, a mere 9 months after the initial design discussions. This remarkably rapid development was a testament to Bristol's ingenuity. While initial trials were promising, the true alchemy began when the brilliant, eccentric scientists from the Telecommunications Research Establishment, TRE, rolled up their sleeves, ready to implant the electronic eyes that would transform this mechanical marvel into a hunter of the night. The stage was set for a revolution. The soul of the Beaufighter's night-fighting prowess wasn't its engines or its cannons, it was the whispered secret vibrating within its fuselage, the airborne interception AI Mk4 radar set. This wasn't merely technology, it was the very essence of Britain's desperate gamble to reclaim the night. Developed in a clandestine race against time, shrouded in impenetrable secrecy, the AI Mk4 was the world's first truly effective airborne radar system. It was a marvel of miniaturization and electronic wizardry for its era, a complex tapestry of valves, wires and cathode ray tubes, all crammed into the rear cockpit. Its features were nothing short of revolutionary. The whispering antenna array, a distinctive array of aerials resembling skeletal antlers, adorned the Beaufighter's nose and wings. These weren't for show, they were the eyes of the system, sending out faint, directional pulses into the inky blackness. They allowed the aircraft to sweep the dark skies ahead, searching for the telltale reflections of an enemy bomber. The hunter's range. While rudimentary by modern standards, the AI Mk4 could detect a medium-sized bomber at ranges up to 4,500 yards, approximately 4.1 kilometers, a monumental leap from pure visual sighting. Crucially, it could then track that target with increasing precision, guiding the fighter down to a lethal 200 yards, a range where the Beaufighter's cannons would take over. The unsung hero, the operator. The true genius of the system lay in its human element, the backseat navigator/radar operator. This was no mere co-pilot, this was the brain behind the eyes. Hunched over a small, flickering cathode ray tube (CRT) screen, he meticulously interpreted the faint blips and streaks of light. Each blip was a potential enemy, a whisper in the electronic dark. His role was to translate these abstract signals into precise, life-or-death commands for the pilot. Turn port 5 degrees, climb 200 feet, steady, contact. This intricate dance, a blend of human intuition and electronic precision, became famously known as the cat-and-mouse game of the night skies. Early AI Mk4 units were temperamental beasts. They were heavy, prone to overheating, and the CRT displays were agonizingly difficult to read in the pitching, vibrating confines of a fighter cockpit. Ground testing was a constant improvisation, with technicians sometimes flying alongside, literally debugging the system mid-air. Initial data was sobering. In early 1941, the average successful interception still required a Beaufighter crew to spend nearly 45 minutes in the air searching for a target, relying heavily on ground control until the AI radar could lock on. Yet, as the grim winter of 1940-41 gave way to a hopeful spring, the first dedicated Beaufighter squadrons began their patrols. For the first time, RAF pilots were no longer blind. They had a ghost's gaze, a revolutionary tool to fight back against the darkness. The hunt was finally on. Spring 1941. The shift in the night skies was subtle at first, then undeniable. German bomber crews, once kings of the nocturnal domain, began to report unnerving encounters. Unseen attackers appearing out of nowhere, delivering devastating bursts of cannon fire. They called it flak in the sky, a phantom menace that was rapidly eroding their impunity. The RAF, with its new weapon, had ushered in a new, chilling phase of the air war that pilots grimly termed Beaufighter weather. The impact of the Beaufighter's deployment was immediate and, for the British public, nothing short of miraculous. Prior to its widespread use, the RAF's night combat success rate was abysmal, hovering at less than 3%. Most interceptions were lucky visual sightings or desperate guesses. With the Beaufighter, those numbers began to climb with terrifying speed. By the end of 1941, squadrons equipped with the twin-engine Giant were achieving success rates approaching 15 to 20% on critical, heavily rated night. A pivotal moment, etched into the collective memory of a nation, occurred on the night of May 10 and 11, 1941. The Luftwaffe, in a final, desperate paroxysm of destruction, launched its last major attack on London, targeting the very heart of the British Empire. This would be the last grand flourish of the Blitz. But this time, the skies were not empty. Beaufighter squadrons, guided by their unseen eyes, operated with devastating efficiency, often vectoring into position from miles away. That night, they recorded multiple confirmed kills, a stark message to the German High Command. The rules of night warfare had changed irrevocably. The tide had turned. The cumulative psychological effect on the Luftwaffe was profound. The sense of invulnerability was shattered. Bombing raids shifted away from Britain's vital industrial heartlands towards less defended coastal areas, and eventually, the full-scale night blitz was officially abandoned. Hitler, facing a new and intractable problem in the West, redirected his precious bomber fleet and strategic focus eastwards, towards the Soviet Union. The Beaufighter, with its uncanny ability to see in the dark thanks to its AI radar, had not only won the Battle of Britain's second phase, the Night War, but had also fundamentally altered the strategic landscape of the entire conflict. The darkness, once an ally to the enemy, now belonged to Britain. The Beaufighter's extraordinary capabilities ensured that its reign wasn't confined to the drizzly, blackout skies over Britain. Its sheer robustness, impressive long range, and that fearsome box of fire armament made it the ultimate multi-role aircraft, a sentinel of the skies deployed across virtually every theater of war where Allied forces fought. The Beau was a true global warrior. The Mediterranean inferno, Malta and North Africa in the sun-baked, yet equally treacherous, skies and seas of the Mediterranean, the Beaufighter found a new hunting ground. Operating from the besieged island of Malta, or the harsh desert airfields of North Africa, it excelled as a long-range fighter and, crucially, as a maritime strike aircraft. Equipped with its powerful cannons and later, torpedoes, it became the terror of Axis shipping convoys. These vital supply lines, desperately trying to sustain Rommel's Afrika Korps, were systematically shredded. The Mark X variant, specifically designed to carry a torpedo, earned the chilling nickname Torbo, and its presence alone struck fear into the hearts of Axis merchant seamen. The jungles of Southeast Asia, Burma, the brutal, humid conditions of the Burmese jungle, with its vast distances and unforgiving terrain, demanded an aircraft of exceptional reliability. The Beaufighter delivered. Its robust construction and stable flight characteristics made it perfect for ground attack missions, often flying low-level sweeps against Japanese troop concentrations, supply depots, and river barges. Here, it earned perhaps its most iconic and ominous moniker from the Japanese troops, Whispering Death. The distinctive thrum of its Bristol Hercules engines, unlike the high-pitched whine of other fighters, often blended eerily with the jungle's ambient sounds, allowing the Beaufighter to approach its targets with a terrifying, almost silent stealth, before unleashing its devastating cannon fire. The vast Pacific theater, operating across the immense, unforgiving expanses of the Pacific against the Imperial Japanese forces, the Beaufighter became a potent anti-shipping and anti-railway aircraft. Its ability to carry heavy loads of rockets and cannons allowed it to disrupt vital logistical lines across island chains and coastal routes. From sinking sampans to demolishing critical railway bridges, the Beaufighter's versatility and firepower were indispensable. The Beaufighter's adaptability, its capacity to transition seamlessly from night fighter to torpedo bomber, from ground attack to maritime patrol, ensured its long-term value. It remained in frontline service throughout the entire war, a testament to its exceptional design, even as many other early war aircraft designs became obsolete. The Beau truly saw the world, fighting in every major climate and against every major enemy. The Beaufighter's longevity and fearsome reputation were not just a testament to its initial design, but to its incredible capacity for weapon evolution. Its robust airframe, massive wings, and powerful engines provided a stable platform capable of integrating the latest and most devastating offensive technologies. This adaptability transformed the Beau from merely a night interceptor into a multi-role strike aircraft, a true master of annihilation. The Rocket Revolution, RP-3 beginning in 1943, a new weapon transformed the Beaufighter's ground and maritime attack capabilities. The RP-3 Rocket Projectile 3-inch. These 60 pounds high-explosive rockets, slung beneath the wings, effectively gave the Beaufighter the punching power of a small naval destroyer. Launched in salvos at low altitude, a single rocket could penetrate armored vehicles, demolish railway rolling stock, or, crucially, break the back of a merchant ship. The Beaufighter would typically carry up to 8 RP-3 rockets, turning it into a flying artillery platform that delivered pinpoint destruction. This made the Beaufighter lethal against maritime and ground targets, adding a new dimension to its already impressive arsenal. The Torpedo Ascendant, Torpedo Strike. The Beaufighter Mark X, often affectionately known as the Torpedo, became the RAF Coastal Command's standard torpedo carrier. Operating in tightly coordinated formations known as strike wings, often comprising 20 to 30 aircraft, these Beaufighters would launch devastating, low-level attacks on Axis shipping convoys. The tactic was brutal and effective. A portion of the Beaus would use their cannons and rockets to suppress enemy anti-aircraft fire, flak, from escort vessels, while the dedicated torpedo-carrying aircraft would make their critical, mast-height runs, releasing their deadly payload. The precision and overwhelming force of these strike wings were undeniable. Documented data indicates that these combined arm tactics were credited with sinking over 150,000 tons of Axis shipping alone, a testament to the Beaufighter's destructive potential when equipped with the right weapons and guided by daring crews. This continuous weapon evolution ensured that the Beaufighter remained at the cutting edge of offensive air power throughout the war, constantly adapting to new threats and expanding its lethality. It proved that a well-designed airframe could be a versatile weapon platform capable of delivering destruction in myriad forms. As the war progressed, the technological arms race in aerial warfare intensified. German scientists, ever resourceful, developed new defenses and electronic countermeasures to challenge Allied radar systems. Yet, the Beaufighter, ever evolving, stayed one step ahead through continuous technological upgrades, primarily in its most vital component, the airborne interception (AI) radar. The most significant leap forward came with the introduction of the AI Mk-8 radar unit. This wasn't merely an upgrade. It was a revolution powered by a new, top-secret invention, the cavity magnetron. This device enabled the radar to operate on centimetric wavelengths, around 10 centimeters, a dramatic shift from the longer metric wavelengths of earlier systems. The implications were profound. Unprecedented power and accuracy. Centimetric radar was far more powerful, accurate, and, crucially, virtually immune to the early German jamming techniques that were beginning to vex Allied forces. The shorter wavelengths allowed for much finer beam control, drastically improving target resolution, reduced drag, enhanced performance. The smaller centimetric aerials could be housed in more aerodynamic fairings, reducing drag on the Beaufighter and improving its overall flight performance, a small but vital gain in an aerial dogfight. The threepence in a barrel phenomenon, the precision of the AI Mk-8 became legendary among its crews. It could track a target bomber with such astonishing accuracy that it was famously described as being able to spot a threepence, a small coin, in a barrel. This unparalleled fidelity allowed Beaufighter pilots to close the distance to their targets with blinding speed and precision, executing the kill run with total surprise and devastating effect. Interception efficiency redefined. The reliability and pinpoint accuracy of the Mk-8 radar dramatically simplified the complex cat-and-mouse game. Interceptions that once took agonizing minutes, filled with nervous chatter and subtle course corrections, could now be made in a fraction of the time. The Beaufighter's dominance over the night sky was not just solidified, it was guaranteed, providing a stark psychological and tactical advantage over an increasingly outmatched Luftwaffe. This continuous push for technical mastery, particularly in radar technology, ensured that the Beaufighter remained an apex predator in the darkest skies. It was a testament to the relentless innovation of Allied scientists and engineers, who consistently provided the tools necessary to maintain air superiority, even as the enemy desperately sought to counter them. The Beau wasn't just a plane. It was a flying laboratory, continually pushing the boundaries of what was electronically possible in warfare. The legend of the Beaufighter, the plane that could see in the dark, is incomplete without acknowledging its most vital component. Not a piece of machinery, but a human partnership. Unlike single-seat fighters where individual prowess reigned supreme, the night war was a symphony of coordination, won by the indelible bond between the pilot and the often unsung hero, the navigator/radar operator. In the cramped, claustrophobic, and perpetually dark rear cockpit of the Beaufighter, hunched over a flickering, green-tinged CRT screen, the operator waged his own silent, nerve-wracking war. He was under immense, sustained psychological stress, a pressure cooker of focus and precision. His responsibilities were absolute and terrifying. The oracle of interception. His primary duty was to be the eyes of the aircraft, translating the abstract blips and faint lines on his radar screen into precise, actionable, verbal commands for the pilot was a skill that demanded immense concentration and a near telepathic understanding. Contact, closing, bearing 340, climb 100 feet. Each word a life or death directive in the void. He guided the pilot from miles away, through cloud and rain, until the enemy bomber was a mere shadow, ready for the killing blow. The navigator through oblivion, beyond guiding the kill, he was also the primary navigator. After a violent engagement, disoriented and perhaps damaged, it was his responsibility to plot a course home over blacked-out, featureless terrain, often with only the stars, if visible, and the occasional ground beacon for guidance. Getting the crew home safely was as crucial as making the kill. The crucible of stress. Imagine the terror, closing on an enemy unseen, knowing that the slightest misinterpretation of a radar blip, the smallest navigational error, or a moment's hesitation could mean a catastrophic collision or a fatal misjudgment. The solitude of his task, combined with the inherent danger, made the radar operator's role one of the most mentally demanding in the RAF. The bond between the pilot and the operator was more than professional, it was fraternal, forged in the fires of shared peril. Their lives literally depended on each other's flawless execution. This groundbreaking dual-role requirement pioneered the concept of the Specialized Weapons Systems Officer, WSO, a dedicated non-pilot aircrew member responsible for managing complex sensors and weapons. This doctrine, born in the darkness of the Beaufighter's cockpit, remains central to modern fighter and strike aircraft operations across the globe today, a lasting testament to the critical role of the unseen hero. The Bristol Beaufighter's fearsome reputation transcended mere combat statistics. It burrowed deep into the psyche of its enemies, becoming a potent tool of psychological warfare. Its quiet approach, a unique characteristic of its powerful Bristol Hercules radial engines, created a distinctive, almost stealthy drone that often blended eerily with background noise. This earned it perhaps its most iconic and chilling moniker from Japanese troops in the Pacific and Southeast Asia, "Whispering Death." For the Axis aircrews, particularly those flying transport, reconnaissance, or lighter bombers, the fear of the Beaufighter was visceral and pervasive. Unlike other fighters that announced their presence with a high-pitched whine, the Beau often arrived as an unseen shadow, its low growl becoming audible only moments before its devastating attack. This created an omnipresent sense of dread. The invisible predator, Japanese and German pilots suddenly faced an enemy that struck from nowhere. There was no dogfight, no prolonged engagement, just the sudden, overwhelming fusillade from 4 20mm cannons, followed by instant destruction. This created an atmosphere of paranoia and helplessness, morale shattered. The sheer certainty of sudden, devastating attack caused severe morale problems within Axis transport and coastal defense units. Knowing that an unseen predator could appear at any moment, day or night, to shred their aircraft or sink their ships, led to widespread anxiety. Evasion over engagement. This fear had tangible strategic consequences. Enemy pilots often chose highly inefficient, indirect routes, flying far out of their way or abandoning missions entirely, simply to avoid known Beaufighter patrol areas. The cost in fuel, time, and lost opportunities was immense, effectively disrupting Axis logistics even without a direct interception. The Beaufighter delivered not just ordnance, but the chilling certainty of destruction. It was a psychological force multiplier, creating a disproportionate impact on enemy morale and operational effectiveness across every theater. The Whispering Death wasn't just a plane. It was a terrifying legend, a harbinger of doom that haunted the nightmares of Axis aircrews and soldiers alike. The Bristol Beaufighter, a formidable combination of brute force and cutting-edge electronic wizardry, stands as one of the most pivotal and enduring aircraft of World War II. Its story is not just one of aerial combat, but of a revolution that redefined the very nature of air power. Its most profound legacy lies in its absolute proof of the strategic necessity of integrated airborne radar. Before the Beau, night warfare was a desperate, blind gamble. After the Beau, it became a scientifically managed hunt, a realm where technology provided an unparalleled advantage. It effectively gave the RAF total dominance over the night skies for the remainder of the war, transforming a critical vulnerability into an impregnable shield. The Beaufighter pioneered and solidified the operational doctrine for several key aviation roles that persist to this day. The dedicated two-man night fighter, where the pilot and radar operator functioned as a single, lethal unit. The heavy anti-shipping strike aircraft, demonstrating the devastating effectiveness of coordinated attacks using both torpedoes and the newly developed rockets, RP-3s, against maritime targets. The fundamental concept of the radar operator, which evolved into the Modern Weapons Systems Officer, WSO, solidifying the critical role of non-pilot aircrew in managing complex electronic warfare systems. The successful, rapid integration and continuous refinement of the AI Mk4 and Mk8 radars into a frontline fighter cemented Britain's technological lead in aviation electronics. This lead was not merely a tactical advantage. It was a strategic cornerstone that ultimately ensured the successful defense of the homeland during the Blitz and provided the crucial air superiority required for the eventual Allied victory. The Bristol Beaufighter was more than just a plane. It was the physical embodiment of Britain's wartime ingenuity, a machine that peered through the darkness and heralded the dawn of a new era in airborne combat. Its legacy resonates in every modern fighter jet that flies with electronic eyes, carrying forward the spirit of the plane that could see in the dark.